All right. Mary Sewell, MSW, LMSW, is a school social worker, therapist, and doctoral candidate in social work at the University of Kentucky with expertise in culturally responsive suicide assessment for African American adolescents. She earned both a bachelor's of social work and a master's of social work from Troy University and has nearly a decade of professional experience in school based mental health therapeutic practice and community settings. So currently serves as a school social worker therapist with Chance Life Behavioral Health, where she provides suicide risk assessment, crisis intervention, and culturally grounded mental health services within K through 12 educational environments. Her practice focuses on supporting clinical practitioners and educational professionals who assess suicidality among African American youth by offering equity centered, practice informed approaches that address cultural, relational, and structural limitations in conventional assessment tools. Her doctoral scholarship critically examines the cultural validity of widely used suicide risk assessment tools. Her capstone project, From Silence to Speech, a culturally responsive framework for suicide assessment among African American adolescents, introducing the R.I.C.K.Y. Ricky framework, includes three integrated manuscripts that collectively present and implement a theory driven framework driven on critical race theory, relational cultural theory, and Afrocentric principles. This work seeks to improve ethical decision making by incorporating culturally sensitive communication, relational safety, and contextual understanding across school, clinical, and community settings. Hmm,
That's a mouthful.
that was
Yeah.
Dr. Sewell.
Well,
Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work. We're glad you're here and can't wait to hear about your journey.
well, thank you so much, Ms. Davis, for having me. And thank you all guests, especially Dr. Ricciardelli. Uh, God, I don't even know where to begin other than I can take us way back. Um, it's about 2016. I was writing down some notes. In 2016, I was newly divorced and walking into Miss Davis' office. At that time, she was my advisor. And uh, and I was fearful, had that fear of math. And she says, "No, you got to take this and put it behind you." And so that's one of those things. Is that okay? But I wind up getting over the math portion and all that stuff. And long story short, I for some odd reason I wind up doing a work study, and I was Miss Davis in the nursing department's work study, and a job came open. And I wind up being the administrative assistant for the nursing department as well as the social work department. And shortly, around about that time, that's when I met Dr. Ricciardelli. And all of us were like, I mean, we were like family. Um, and being from a non-conventional student, uh, re-entering the workforce, being an older woman, divorced, being African American, and trying to figure out. I said, she says, "You'll just be wonderful at this." And I thought, I don't want to be a social worker. I really don't want to be that person that takes kids home. And that's when she said, "Girl, that is not what we do. That's not all what we do." And then I started listening and developing some of the things that I wanted to do. And long story short, completing my master's and staying there, that helped a lot. And putting that understanding what that would be like with the doctor's program. And one of the assignments for school was you had to do a vision board. And I still have mine. And there was one thing on there. I don't have all, I've done just about everything on there, but I don't have the money yet. But I did say I wanted to see what it would be like to, social workers don't make a whole lot of money, but I did the travel and social work, and I got a chance to make six figures. And that was fun. That was fun. But along taking it back to get to that place, going back in 2019, working during COVID and working at the housing authority, let me know, no, this is not it. I didn't feel like I was helping people. Um, and that was around in 2019 too. I did have one of my granddaughters, she had attempted suicide. And during that time, I was in my practicum. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. Because we're under this quote thing that, Black people, we don't do that. That's taboo. And and I had to learn a lot about that. And then I started researching. And the thing of it is, coming from a not so much as myself, but middle class African American, and her mother's an educator. Her mom, my oldest daughter has her master's degree in education administration. She's like, no. And my youngest daughter is a pastor. And I thought, no, this doesn't happen. And I began to do a lot of research and doing presentations on it. And so to get there was hard. And she had her bouts, several bouts, and she's doing well. But fast forward to I decided, okay, the family seems to be in a good headspace. So I decided I think I might want to travel and work with a different culture. And so, having my master's, I jumped at the opportunity when it was presented to work with the indigenous population, and it was the um, Supai, the Havasu. So she said, there's only one way to go visit that. This is a very old indigenous population. They've been around a long time, for centuries. And I thought, what? And so it's at the very bottom of the Grand Canyon. I never knew people lived down there. And she says, there was only three ways to go, and you could catch a helicopter, or you can ride a mule, or you can hike in. And so, of course, I chose to ride the helicopter, and it was an adventure. But I'm gonna take you on a little journey with me. My first day down was March 6th, 2023, and I drove with my granddaughter. We were driving and drove to Arizona, but I had to take her back to Nevada to the airport. But while I'm back, my son in that time was having some mental health issues, and he was going to stay at my house while I was away. And he kind of, I felt like everything. We had visited his doctors and stuff, and he was on medication, and he seemed to have been doing okay. Looking back at it, your hindsight is always different. And well, the day that I got there, March 6th, 2023, I landed down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and I got there and I spoke to my son. His name is Ricky, and it was about 3:30. I talked to him, and he said, how was your trip? I said, it was different. I said, I don't know about this helicopter riding, but it's different. He said, okay. And so I had a meeting to go, and I told him I would talk to him later. Well, later never came. While I was in the meeting, they came to get me I had a phone call from my daughter, and then my son had took his own life. And of course, I was in shock. Um, so they had to fly me back up, and um, some of the stuff I can remember, some of it's still blurry, but it was rough. But I took took me about a couple of months to get back to where I could say something about it. but I just was hardened by the fact that I blame myself for not really seeing the signs. And I had to learn through the process of therapy that it's not always, we blame ourselves. We truly do. We blame ourselves. And I had to learn that for a long time. I was studying, ladies, I was studying for my clinical license. And I could not get past. I couldn't say the word suicide. I couldn't even read it. And it was difficult. But I wanted to not let Ricky's name, at his memorial service, he worked with juveniles. A lot of social workers and counselors came up to me and said that and some of their children that were in school said that they were the reason, Ricky was the reason why they were going back to school for social work, for therapy, because of the counseling he did with boys that were troubled teens. I mean, at that moment, I decided, I said, I can't let his name be forgotten. And while I was out there, um, I got this wild idea that I would enroll in school. And it was tough. It really was. The toughest class was research. uh, a systematic research. I thought that was going to be easy. No, it was a lot. It was a lot. And but the research, the one of the articles I remember reading was so amazing to me was the fact that out of all the disciplines there are in the helping field, social work is one of the largest. It is the largest. And we have the least amount of voices in research. And that is something I don't understand. If we're not going to be able to affect change if we don't start getting into research and start making the difference in the changes in things. These companies and pharmaceutical places and stuff that do the funding, especially for women and then minorities, because for some odd reason, we're not respected enough, or or maybe they're just not picking up on they don't want to hear what we have to say. But there shouldn't be that many of us out there without the research. Um, but so far, like I said, moving fast forward 2 years later, after all of that, I managed. I don't know how I graduated with uh, it was 3.71. Whew. University of Kentucky. I tell you what, you can't get by with a B in that class. But especially your core work, and it was difficult. It was difficult because there was a lot of teachers that it was like being in nursing school, doing a lot of weeding out, you know, and trying to get you. One of my professors, I mean, she ate me up as far as when I developed the Ricky framework named after my son. I was trying to tell him that I said the biggest part when you're doing suicide assessment is we don't develop a relationship with the client that we're assessing. And how do you do that? Well, you sometimes just need to take the time out when it says in the Columbia Suicide Assessment, that question says, have you ever thought about killing yourself? You got to get past that and say it. Or have you ever thought about dying? You got to go ahead and say it. And has it been in the last 2 weeks? Has it been in the last 30 days? Ask that question and then follow up. Just don't check the next box, because we were taught checking the boxes, and to get to they say the right thing, then immediately don't take your eyes off of them and get ready to call to get them in a hospital. Sometimes it's just with us, especially in this culture, is a lot of times we just want somebody to talk to us. We just want to get out of the situation. Like my granddaughter's words were, "I don't want to be here." So what does that mean? What does that look like? let's elaborate on that. What is I don't want to be here? Is it being here in this moment, or just I'm ready to end it all? What can we do to change the moment? And you got to change the conversation, because I was the one that checked boxes. Even in the when I worked with two different tribes, I checked the boxes and immediately ready to off to the hospital setting. And then with the high rate of suicide with the indigenous population, you didn't play around. Uh, Culturally, you have to be willing to ask the questions and elaborate more. But then you have to, with me, I was on that, I was so nervous about, I didn't want another person to die. And so sometimes I went a little bit overboard um, without asking much needed questions. A lot of times people just need somebody to talk to. And taking it from there, and I said, okay, so now I'm graduated. Where do I go from now from there? Well, my job decided to lay me off a month ago. They had too many social workers. But 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 my daughter says, what are you going to do with this work? And I can't just let it just lay there. So I've been sitting at home and writing, thinking about I want to do some type of foundation and nonprofit centered around this, not only just African American youth, but the children itself, getting to understand that, because sometimes this is more to it than I just don't want to be here. And I remember, like I said, probably about 2 months ago, I had a kid. They called me and says, well, she said she wanted to kill herself. And so I get there and I look at her and she says, no. I said, she says, I don't want to talk to you. I said, well, you're going to talk to me today. And come on. So we sitting down in the office. And it wasn't that she wanted to kill herself. She wanted to remove herself from the situation she found herself in. This boy was bullying her and he was trying to beat her. And so, and he promised her that that's what he was going to do. And I had to let them know that no, the situation is she didn't want to hurt herself. She just wanted to be removed from that situation. Now, ladies, y'all have let me talk. And I could go on and on, but my biggest thing is that I take the takeaway I had from all of this experience. I'm still processing and going through it, and I have my moments. But my biggest thing is don't ever stop. At whatever age you are, don't ever stop. And I remember two people that I can remember had my back, and that was Miss Davis and Dr. Richard Ellie. She said, "Oh, you can do this." She was one of the people that said, "I believe you." And I was like saying to myself, "I don't know what she see," and I had to take some extra writing courses. Miss Davis used to, I still wrote it down. I have people laughing. So Miss Davis used to say all the time, "Mary, you speak so well, but you write so shitty." So I've learned, and it's paid off to get published. And my first article was with Dr. Richard Ellie, and so I've gotten a lot of um, help with that. And if I don't say anything to you guys, learn about culture and cultural humility. And it's more to it than, as Miss Davis would say, don't ever come to me and tell me I don't see color. Because when you say that, you are discounting who I am and what I've been through. And that speaks volumes in culture. Yes. So well, back to you, Miss Davis.
I'm looking for a mouse. Oh man, I'm just also, honey, and for you to be able to sit here tonight smiling and showing up, I just, there are no
Yeah,
words.
yeah, I got the support from you guys. I learned that we can't sit still. You can't crawl. And believe me, the stories, I started writing. I said I was going to get with Dr. Richard Elliott. Y'all would know that the trauma behind what happened to my son. It was a whole lot. I didn't have time. I really didn't. It was so much behind it. Opioid addiction. Oh God, that they were trying to cremate him before I could get a chance to see him. I mean, there was just so much trauma behind that drama. But being ex-law enforcement, I had a few I had a few cards in my wheelhouse that I was able to pull, and something that never has happened. My son was married, but he was separated. Um, the judge allowed me at the very last hour, and I mean last hour, to take control over his body, so that in the event that they needed to do more of an autopsy because they thought it was might have been a crime scene, that he wasn't cremated, so that they may have to do that. But that was an ordeal. I mean, hiding his body was hid at three different funeral homes every time I would go. It was a lot of drama, a lot of drama. But, but still, as Maya like, but still I rise. Yeah,
Mary, when I went to your capstone presentation at the University of Kentucky online, but it was online. There was an African proverb that you read that's one of my favorites, and I think you probably know it by heart. And
yeah,
I wonder if you could say it, and then in this context, why that African proverb is so,
yeah.
yeah.
My oldest son used to say it all the time. And it goes like this: until the lion learns to write, the story will always be told from the point of view of the hunter. And why I say that is because there's too many of us, in my view, as I was looking at it, it's too many social workers for us not to have a voice. And if we don't learn to speak for, that's one of the things that we do as social workers, that says that we speak for the people that don't have justice. We try to help them find justice. And if we don't learn to get out there and do research and speak for the people that are not able to speak, um, tell you a little bit of interesting story. But the week that my son took his own life, my oldest daughter was kind of like checking in on him. And like I said, she was a teacher, but she had to work, and she knew something was off, and she kept calling his doctor's office, and trying to get them to come. He needs to come in and see you guys. Something's not quite right, and they never would return her phone call. So the day that I got in on the 7th. The day that I got in, of course, she was still upset, but she took her husband and they went to the clinic that where his doctor was. Um, and she told me, she said, the reception was real nasty to her. She says, I don't need to talk to you. I've been trying to call you, and you were the one that was putting me on hold or saying you couldn't speak to me. She said, but I want to speak to his therapist. So his therapist comes around through the glass door, and she says, well, Miss Vanderberg, how can I help you? Um, about Ricky. She said, I wanted to see you. I wanted to let you know that I'm not going to take all the blame. You guys are going to bear some of the blame because I've been trying to call you and none of you answered the phone. And now she said, well, I can help. And she said, you can't help. It's too late now. He's dead. And so I I say that to us as providers, as therapists. Um, Help starts in the parking lot. When people walk in there, people don't go to the doctor's office or to clinics to make friends. We come there because we need help. There's nobody in the hospital beds that wants the nurse to be nasty to them. They don't feel well. And so at least you need to start learning how to talk to people. I mean, they were in shock, but it was like my daughter said, it was too late then. It's too late to apologize then when you should have answered the phone 3 days ago. And luckily, the person wasn't she wasn't a social worker, you know. Yeah. So on a lighter note, um, there's much work to be done. And
I
if
think that's such an important point, though. We don't have to move quickly to a letter note. I mean, I think it's important to stay there for a moment because I mean, there's probably story after story, but we get so bogged down in
Mhm,
uh, cookie cutter treatment,
mhm,
regardless of where we are. Like I'm just coming in, doing this, and not actually seeing. I think for me, one of the things when I decided to become a social worker, oh my God, before some of you were born, was a situation I had, and I got my situation got compared to somebody I don't even know. The person was like, I have more severe cases on my desk, but my case for me personally was severe, and I remember thinking, if I ever become a social worker, I didn't even know what that was at the time, but if I ever become a social worker, everybody's case is going to be important to me. And I feel
yeah,
like, and those of you who know me feel like, Sharnia, did I not? I mean, if you say you need me, priority. You are a
yeah,
priority because it's exactly what Dr. Mary Sewell is saying, that every person's case is important. Whether it's important to you, it's important to them. And
mhm,
being reminded as providers that we're not doing cookie cutter.
mhm,
Every person's story is important, no matter how long you've been doing this thing. Every person's story is important, and making sure you take a moment to remember that as often as you can. So, Mary, I don't want to pass like, okay, on to a lighter note. No, we need to be reminded that every story is important, even if it's
right.
not important to the agency, it's important to them. And our role is to remember that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it has been one of those, it has been a journey, still is. Still working with different ones, some former students, some former colleagues that we decided that one of the things we need to do is bring this to the church because they are one of the ones that I think are not looking at mental illness the way it should be. Um, you can't pray about everything, you know. Uh, some things you have to realize people need some professional help, and that's one of those things. Like I said, therapy. If you find a good one, and they're worth their weight in gold, especially if they're a social worker. I've seen most social workers do a pretty awesome job. I've had to fire a couple of therapists, but they weren't social workers. Yeah. So if um, anybody have any questions?
Well, first of all, I'm just so excited for you and so proud of your journey and just the work that you're doing. Um, and we can always catch up later on the phone, but I'd be so curious to hear about your vision going forward. You had spoken about the possibility of a foundation or a nonprofit,
Mhm.
but just to hear what do you see as the possibilities and like what's the dream?
And that's it. I was looking at trying to, one of the first things I needed to do was um, two things. Because my daughter is an instructional coach, she looked at a time when I did the ACE study with some adults. And I said, until we learn and remember where we came from, And some of us had seen some of these, the original, the ACE studies since then has changed so much. But the original ones, until you can remember that, hey, that you dealt with some of these same issues that that may have affected these adversities that have, how did you get over them? In the education fields, the teachers had to be reminded of that. And it was astonishing. It's amazing to me that I did that presentation, and it was psychiatrists and psychologists in there, and it was supposed to be quiet. They didn't have to say how many aces they had, but they were like, "Oh, I've got 5 aces." That's not a good thing, to have all those things going on with you, because now you need to see, okay, I want you to step into the child's shoes that you have in your classroom, because a lot of these children, I had a kid, oh God, he got 3 months ago. He got shot about 5 times trying to rescue his sister, because his sister, 14 years old, wanted to go out in the streets at 1 o'clock in the morning. And he's always trying to, make sure that there was food at the house. Until we recognize that, to some of the teachers, it's but our kids go through so much stuff, and then you're trying to figure out, understand, do you see where they are? Why is the anxieties high? And then also I was looking at another thing. Why do it's so much? Why do so many of our kids are labeled with conduct disorder? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's conduct disorder. When then you got to look back, like you were saying, when you were forensic social worker, when you talked about that, sometimes you got to trace back, like, what's going on at home? What's the home environment looks like? So why are they in the shape they're in? And so with the foundation that I'd like to be geared or centered toward youth, so I can catch them where they are and what they're dealing with before they become adults, if we can change some of that. Why is I've had kids that their behavior was so bad. A lot of it had to do with they just couldn't read, and you getting in the 10th grade and you're still reading at a kindergarten reading level, and a teacher doesn't have a little bit of knowledge to say, you know what, I'm not going to call on you. Don't call him out to read if you know already that he can't read. And I took one kid that, he was a fighter all the time. And there's a boxing place in Columbus, a gym. And not to say this, this kid right here, that's what he needed. I said, you know what, you can make a pretty good living with boxing. I said, but not in the school setting. Well, you need to really learn how to. And I got a church to sponsor that skill set. And I got it okay with mom. Take him over there in the evening times and let's hone in on that. Do you know his attitude and everything changed? I think sometimes we just have to recognize what can we do and what we can't do. And I remember even do you know that book that I created for, I call it Mom Survival Kit. A lot of those places are still using that book. I think, and that goes back to the R.I.C.K.Y framework that I developed. It's not an assessment tool at all. It's not an assessment tool. What it is a way that I want people to start listening. Like I was telling Ms. Davis, is we got to listen and let people tell their story. When you tell their story, then you can say, maybe it's not that I want to kill myself or harm myself. I just need somebody to listen to what's going on. And with my daughter, another interesting story, because of the ACE study, a little boy had been, his mom had gotten killed the night before, and he was like 4th grade. His mom got killed, and his uncle comes and picks him up, and he didn't sleep at all. So the uncle had to go to work. So what did he do? He drops the kid off at school, and the kid's trying to stay awake, but he's trying to sleep. And the teacher's going by there trying to wake him up. I need you to wake up. And the kid's still sleepy. And so the school social worker, they sent him down there to her, and she finds out why he can't sleep? Why is he trying to sleep? Well, his mama just got killed the night before. And they called for the next of kin, which was the brother. And he's still sleeping. He's laying there trying to sleep, and he still got the blood on the shirt that his mom was killed on. And you know what the social worker did? She made him a pallet in her office to go to sleep. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that I think that we do that I know that goes unseen or unheard or not talked about. But until we get into some of these, we're not going to be able to change things until we start looking at what some of the homes and the environment some of these kids are coming from. And that's my vision for my son used to work with juveniles at a detention center. And they loved him because he listened to them. And then I thought that if I uh, take some courses on grant writing, that possibly I could see about this foundation and starting it, meeting kids where they are. So I'm putting in that work. So I take my first course next week. That while I'm laid off. Yeah, yeah. It,
Would you, if you had to do it all over again, you said it was challenging. Would you do it all over again?
I would. I would because even before all the things that happened with my granddaughter and my son, I wanted it, but I didn't know it was obtainable. And for you ladies on there, um, it's just an illusion. You got to put your hard work in, but you got to know what you're going for. And when somebody, an instructor comes back and says as my daughter say, bleed all over that paper, don't take it personal because really they're just wanting it to sound better and get to a place where it can be published. Because after that, you can tweak your own work after that. I mean, you can present it however you want. But the thing of it is, I had to get in that frame of mind that they're not after me. They just wanted to sound better, and they don't want to they doesn't want the school to look bad. So, but yeah, I even now knowing everything I know, I wouldn't change anything about my past, but or my future. Not knowing that it brought me here. Um, because I have to realize that there's certain things that we just can't change. And I had to learn that even when I lost Ricky, there was nothing that I could have done. That he showed no indicators to me or any other family member. I can look back and there were signs there, um, but I missed them. But he hid everything well.
Go ahead, Sharnita.
Okay.
Hi,
Hello, Dr. Sewell. How are you?
I'm fine.
I have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna try to minimize it with the time. This could not have been more ordained in the meeting I had with Renita as of yesterday.
Really?
Um, okay, so first question. I don't know if you mentioned if you had your clinical license,
No.
but okay.
Yeah.
Did you
I
feel
I I attempted,
okay?
and I don't think you heard that part, but I attempted. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't get past um, suicide questions. And that was like, whew. I mean, I couldn't even say the word. Um, my daughter found my son, the oldest one, and I had to learn to hide certain things because they were just triggers. Uh, um, and I still do that. I mean, my two of my grandkids and my daughter are in a lot of therapy right now, a lot of therapy, and it's just been 3 years. But I that was finding them was really, really, really hard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. So my
Yeah.
second question. I remember you did say that you did some travel social work. What advice could you give somebody that is looking towards that direction right now? And how long did you do it for?
The first time it was 3 months at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Whew. That was fun because I like photography. It was beautiful. Um, uh, if I had to give any advice, if you were going to do traveling social work and you're going to be working with maybe a different type of culture than you used to, if you can, read up on them. It's very important to read because you cannot bring your ideas to them. Um, you're not going to change some of the things, and you just have to learn how to work with them. Like a couple of the tribes I worked with, they believe in that. I think it's called Tall Man Sam. I don't know if any of y'all heard of that. Look it up. And then one of the reservations that I worked on was Pine Ridge um, Native American Reservation in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Um, one of the highest suicide rates among just about anywhere in the country, let alone with a particular culture. Um, and they believed, both sets believed in Tall Man Sam, and he's this mythical to us guy that comes in and he talks to them and he tells this folklore that goes back to some of their own beginning, that he tells them to take their own lives. And some children believes that he lives in their basement. And so I had to learn, I said, yeah, he does exist. And you have to have that mentality. Yes, he does exist. But then you have to learn how to tell them they don't have to listen to him. Some things that's been tradition. And they believe in smudging. I was the first both schools I've been to that they smudge and they do ceremonies in the mornings. Um, uh, it's something to see the smudging and the smoke going down the hallway, something that we wouldn't have. And that's tradition to listen at that. And they believe in warding off the evil spirits at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. Yeah. And some still dress in the traditional. It was something for me to see horses coming to school, dogs walking down the hallway. Um, Yeah. Uh, this is it's not culturally shocking, but you need to know what you're getting into so that you won't offend anybody. Yeah.
Dr. Sewell, we have about 9 minutes left. One of the things, that I love about your travel social work, and Sharnay, thank you for asking that question, is you, a lot of people think that you have to have some sort of license, but it sounds like you were able to travel, right? So there's lots of different types of, and the other myth I think about travel social work is that it's mostly in the hospitals. But what we've heard twice this month, ladies, those of you who've been with me, is Brittany just came back from Alaska. If y'all saw that one, and she was working with, if you were here for that presentation, she was working with the tribes in Alaska. And now here, Dr. Sewell is talking to us about the tribes. And both of those weren't necessarily, they're for MSW travelers, but not necessarily licensed traveling. So just expanding, because
Yes.
I know Asia is thinking about it. I got
Let
a
me give
couple
you just
of
one
guys
one
thinking
little quick
about it.
note on it.
Yeah.
Most of the tribes, they're on that's federal land. And so when you're working with the federal government, you can have your license can be in Georgia, Florida, anywhere, and you can work. You don't necessarily have to have, and that was the key. Um, uh, because of that, because the federal government just recognized that I was just licensed, not necessarily that I was licensed on that reservation. And then when you're working with indigenous population, it's different laws that you will follow, not necessarily state. Everything falls under it's the tribe, and then it's the federal.
Naisha asked, what company did you use, Dr. Sewell?
AB staffing. and they're located out of Arizona.
Did anybody else have another question for Dr. Sewell? I know we have some school social workers. Where's Latasha? Latasha, I was interested in because Latasha's first full academic year as
Wow.
a school social worker up in Georgia. I know Asia does school therapy. Quinn's not on here. I think those are the only two in the school system. But Latasha, I was wondering, hearing what Dr. Sewell was talking about with the suicidality, how comfortable or confident, or did you have any questions as you move into your new role as a school social worker? And by the way, Latasha, your hair looks fabulous, babe. I would love to see your first day of school pics. I bet they were great.
So right now, I actually haven't had to deal with that. I believe I would be comfortable, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't know until I have my first time dealing with that.
Mhm.
So I don't know yet. But everything is new to me, and I'm just taking it one day at a time. We do have a counselor now because at first it was just a social worker and no counselor. So I do have someone to collaborate with. So that helps a lot.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
always find out from the counselors just what they are licensed to do and what they can and cannot do. As there's a lot of school counselors are not licensed to do a Columbia suicide assessment. I had to learn that the hard way, which we can do that, but some of them can't. It just depends on what type of license they have. And they all have protocols, even if not, and even police officers, they can 1013 a child if they have to, if you don't have your clinicals.
Dr. R, did you have another question? I saw you kind of.
Oh, I was just gonna ask Dr. Sewell, what state are you living in?
I'm back in this good old Phoenix City. Um,
Oh, okay.
it's not my cup of tea. Y'all know but I'm here for now.
Well, that's not that far away from Pensacola. I just didn't know if you were out west or had like relocated closer to Kentucky for your DSW program. But
Yeah.
so, okay.
No, I'm not that far from you. Yeah, I've been to Pensacola a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to get together because I really do. Like I said, I'm still working on this part, but um, I've only got like a couple of chapters. I started writing a book, so we'll have to talk on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to hear all about your projects for sure and how we can collaborate. I'm so proud and excited for you.
Thank you.
Dr. Sewell, I wanted to say this as just the last, you have final words, obviously, but can I just speak to
Sure.
you for a second? I literally was saying this to someone today. Sometimes we get separated from a thing so that we can get into alignment with our purpose.
Mhm.
And so even though that happened, the layoff from the school system, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm not even worried because that feels like it just is opening up some space. You're writing your book. You're going to do the grant writing. Dr. R came through to support you tonight, and
Oh,
she
wow.
has some ideas. I see her beautiful brain working, so she already has some ideas as well. So it just feels like sometimes we have to get separated from a
Mhm.
place so that we can get put in alignment or placed in alignment with what we're supposed. We spoke about that right before
Yeah.
we started the session tonight. That sometimes you gotta be removed from a place so that you can do the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have
Well,
any final words you want to leave the goddesses with tonight?
I want to make sure that you guys follow your dreams and don't let anything or anyone tell you that you can't. Because you're looking at somebody that went back to school. I was 50 something years old when I went back to school. And I thought, wow. And but I'm here now. I have on the back of my wall, I hear this, I finally framed it up, this doctor. And I'm thinking, that doesn't even look like mine. That's my name. But you do that for you, and do it for the purpose, and whatever that purpose is, find that purpose. And I tell you what that book is. What is your why? Why do you do this? And if you know what your why is, I mean, it's going to all come together. And I don't even like to think of it that way, the negative part of losing my son. But if it means that I lost that one to save some more, 10 or more, then his story, his name would all have been worth it.
And we hold him in high regard tonight, Ricky. We hold him in high regard tonight. A couple of people in the chat, Dr. Sewell said, thank you for sharing your story and reminding us not to get distracted with just checking the box.
Yes.
Yeah. And another Dr. Sewell, thank you for sharing your story. I'm really inspired and encouraged. And Naisha said, you are so brave, Dr. Sewell. Does sound good, Dr. Sewell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Sounds funny. But you know what? If you speak it, it'll happen. Now, whatever you call yourself. And Dr. Richard Ellie used to say that.
Speak into existence. Y'all, I had so many tears tonight, so many unexpected tears. But my cup is so full. And thank you for letting me share. I'm about to cry again.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you for letting me share my love for these two beautiful, amazing women that are doing some incredible things. And Dr. Sewell, we'll stay in touch.
Yes.
I gotta get to Florida soon.
Oh, yeah. I got some time.
Yeah, come on. I have extra rooms.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And babies. All right, goddesses, we got through another supervision group, and I'm gonna let
See you guys
Tasha.
later.
I will
Bye-bye.
see you guys soon. And next week, next Wednesday, if we're not doing something Sunday, I know next Wednesday. And Dr. R, know this. Kendra and I, my sister, we're doing a presentation on our award winning, because we won an award just recently at Alzheimer's Dementia, Alzheimer caregiver project that we did. And so we're doing a presentation, see you on it on next Wednesday.
I will be there, and I shared it with my whole faculty, and I have it ready to go out to my students. We start class on Monday, so I'm going to bring a crew, I hope.
I hope so too. And I'll love to see your first day school pics too.
You guys have a wonderful one.
Yeah. All right, you guys. I love y'all so much. And I will see you soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you.